For many years, I was a big believer, and I still believe that Judaism has great knowledge for every Jew, for every Israeli, and I work a lot to expand the possibilities of Jewish studies for all Israelis, try to bring in movers and shakers and to create a new discussion in Israel regarding Judaism and the future of Zionism. I left Kolov after 21 years because I felt I want to enter a different kind of, I would say, mindset. And I would say that it's going from survival Judaism to meaningful Judaism. And it's not about what is Judaism, but why Judaism. It isn't the same thing. What is about content, about thinking, about knowledge, about study, and why touches a whole different part of our body, of our mindset. And that is, what is the ultimate goal of all of this? And I think this is a fresh question that when we're all in survival mode, it's hard to ask the why question because you're surviving. And in many ways, survival is about the tree of knowledge, good and bad. It's about what separates us from the non-Jews, separates Shabbat from the everyday week. Havdalah is all about, separation. And I think that it's time to enter a new phase of Jewish life, which is the tree of life, which is about vitality, about intimacy, about the path of life that really gives us a deep feeling that we're alive. We're not just alive because we're reacting to something or we're judging or we're very smart, but because we feel that something deep inside is coming out, is flourishing. And how does the tree of life reflect the individual? How can it reflect me as an Israeli, a state that's motivated by the tree of life? So today I'm in this world of how do we go from survival to meaning? How do we change the centrality of the tree of knowledge, good and bad, to the uniqueness and the center, which I think should be the tree of life?
There has been, I think, a week and a half ago, students from the Rabbinic School of Ziegler have published a letter. It was in the midst of the war, in Gaza now. So it's maybe 2 weeks ago or something like that. And it caused a lot of reaction in the Jewish world. It caused, for some people, it caused agitation or pain or even fear. And in some, such as me, it created a lot of inspiration. And I heard very strong calling for me to listen to and to comply with. So I'll be reading the letter so that we have Rabbinical and Cantorial students appeal to the heart of the Jewish community. Blood is flowing in the streets of the Holy Land. Fires are burning on the hills of Jerusalem, and buildings are smoldering in Gaza. Violence is spilling onto the streets of Lod and Haifa. With each refresh of the news and each rocket that falls, new images of terror sear themselves into our minds. We find ourselves in tears. The tears that flow are different for each of us. For some of us, they are familiar tears. We've been moved by similar scenes that have played out for years and years in Jerusalem and beyond. For others, they are newer. Coming to terms with reality on the ground is a journey we all have come to differently. For many, we experience heartbreak over and over again with each new injustice. A spiritual crisis requires more than prayer. It requires heartbreak, which demands reflection, which then demands action. Rabbi Elazar said, from the times of the destruction of the temple, the gates of prayer were locked, But even though the gates of prayer were locked, the gates of tears were not locked. As it states, hear my prayers, God, and give ear to my pleading. Keep not silent as my tears, at my tears. Psalms 39:13. We can only make change when we replace our watered down prayers for peace with tears of heartbreak. We can only build and rebuild when we start from our tears. For those of us whom Israel has represented hope and justice, we need to give ourselves permission to watch, to acknowledge what we see, to mourn and to cry, and then to change our behavior and demand better.
It feels to me like, also regarding to what you're saying, Mordechai, I can really see things like visually. So we used to think of the tree of knowledge and the tree of life also according to like the way art and like the picture of it is that they are separated. They are one next to the other and we go here or we go here. But now that we're talking, and while you were reading this, like in the last sentence, Ruti, I could really see the journalists and the hosts in the news and in the television, when they sit and they talk and they discuss all those life events. And I'm sometimes asking myself, what would it look like if they had a moment to cry, to sit in silence and not talk? And then I could see that it's like sometimes there's the tree of life, yeah, that, like you say, it doesn't go anywhere. This is what we are. This is not a choice. We are life. It's physics, yeah, biology. We are life. But then I could feel like the tree of knowledge, it's like sitting on me like a layer, and it makes the tree of life, it's like it's disappearing. It's like a tree inside a tree. And all we can, all that we communicate is from those external layers.
Mm.
This is how we meet. This is how we filter the reality. Yeah, this is our identity. This is our culture, our knowledge. So this is what I feel in the letter. They are like calling to what you call the soul, the wisdom of the soul, the wisdom of the tree of life. And like you say, Mordechai, and sometimes you can see this in the news with reporters and stuff, you see like the knowledge is cracking and suddenly there's like a fracture of soul. They have no words. You see it in their eyes. They are shaken, like the name of this live session. The tree of knowledge, the layer cracks. Because, like you say, Mordechai, the tree of life cannot take this. And this is when we cry. It's overflowing, it's overwhelmed. And tears are not made of words. They're not made of thoughts.
I'd like to share two thoughts I have after reading the letter. First of all, I feel that this letter and other expressions are calling me to ask the core question of the return to Israel. And let's be more specific. What is the Temple Mount symbol? What are we actually returning to? I've been in this question in the past few years. After many years, I totally denied this question. I was just here and happy to be here and part of a flourishing country, did my army service, served in war. But I never asked, what does Temple Mount, what is this, aliyah laregel, this wanting to come close all about? And just recently, I really understood that Temple Mount is really about Etz HaChaim. It's about a place where There is no ownership. There is no, I would say, masculine domination of the world, but there's a real prayer for all nations. There's a real place that people under one God can really feel the vitality of differences of colors. And this for me is a very powerful understanding that the center of all of this is Etz HaChaim. And in our prophets, and
Etz HaChaim is the tree of life, I'm just saying.
The tree of life is at the core, is at the essence of all of the Zionistic return to the land. And that's something very important for me to remember, that that's the essence, that's where we're going to. And what does that mean regarding our neighbors, regarding non-Jews? What does it mean regarding Jews? How do Jews talk about the tree of life? What does this mean for a Haredi Jew, for an Orthodox Jew? What does this mean for a Levite Jew? What is our tree of life? That's a discussion that I am so much eager to create today. That's one thing I want to share. The second thing is, I would like to speak to American Jews and have a discussion, not about what's going on in Israel, are you for and against? I'm much more about what is your vision? What is your Temple Mount in your life? What is the Etz HaChaim? What is the tree of life for you? And I would say something a bit more complicated right now. I feel as an Israeli that I'm struggling between two trees. When a pilot has to send a bomb into a house in Gaza, knowing that there's a slight chance that people who aren't part of the Hamas will be injured. And that's the reality of war. War is never, how do you say, meduyak? It's never precise. There are always prices paid beyond the specific target. That's the definition of war, with all the ugliness of war. So we are dealing here with a reality of using power. How do we balance power? How do we sometimes overuse power, and do we cry? Do we remember all the time the tree of life essence of all of this? But I would like to understand, where is this struggle in diaspora Jews? What is their tree of knowledge, reality? What is the tree of life for them? Because I feel that in Israel, we're dancing this dance. It's a very difficult dance. In two past historical moments, we didn't succeed in holding on to the land because we didn't know the art of the dance, because we weren't connected to the tree of life. But it's a dance. It's an amazing dance. As a second generation Holocaust survivor, it's the most meaningful thing to say, yes, I'm part of this dance. Of how does my son go to war? How did I go to war? What does that mean? And I would really like to understand, even have a dialogue with the Ziegler students. And I have a lot of respect to Rabbi Artson, the head of the school, who's a friend. And we spoke about this in the past, but let's start talking about the trees together. I think that's a discussion that is so much missing today.